Hi, my name is Katherine Schwab. I'm an assistant managing editor here at Forbes covering technology, and I'm so excited to be here today with Vijay Balasubramaniyan. He is the CEO and co founder of Pindrop, which, among other things, focuses on detecting AI audio deepfakes. Vijay, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Catherine.
So, I want to start with kind of a high level overview of what Pindrop does.
Absolutely. So, for the longest time, Catherine, Pindrop focused on what we call the right human problem, which is when you talk to a bank, an insurance, a healthcare provider, they have to figure out who you are to give you access to your account. So, they ask you questions, send you one time passcodes, do all kinds of things to establish who you are. And what Pindrop does is shortens that process by identifying you by your voice, device, and behavior. And it does that for eight of the top 10 banks, five of the top seven insurances, some of the biggest healthcare providers, some of the biggest retailers. But more recently, we've started focusing on what we call the real human problem as well, which is even before establishing that you're talking to the right human, you need to know, are you talking to a human at all? And is this a machine or a human? And then you can ask the question, is it the right human? So we focus on both the right human and the real human problem for some of the largest organizations in the world, and do that to make sure identity and customer experience is front and center.
Okay, great. That's really helpful. So we're to some degree talking about like a I'm not a robot test, but if you're on the phone, right?
Absolutely. On the phone, and increasingly now on video on a meeting like this.
Great. Okay, so talk to me about getting into that second part of this problem because I think the first part everyone can kind of understand. At what point did you start to see a turning point where determining if a voice was human or not became something that your customers really wanted?
Yeah, so we started working on this about 8 years back. And 8 years back, there was this technology, this software company called Lyrebird, which broke into the scene and it could clone your voice. And there were a lot of people who were cloning all the presidential candidates, all celebrities back then. And if you had to clone someone's voice, which wasn't a celebrity, you needed 20 hours of someone's speech. And so even back then we were like, this is going to be a problem. So our patents, our first deepfake detection patents are back from 8 years back. And over the course of this time, we have been called into some of these places where people cloned people's voices, faces, and things like that. Even, for example, 3 years back when Anthony Bourdain's voice got uh, created as part of his documentary, we were the ones who were called in to determine which parts of the documentary were real Anthony Bourdain and which ones had his voice been cloned. And at that point, ChatGPT was still not or generative AI was not as big a deal. And then fast forward to now, where it has exploded. There are about 550 applications that can clone your voice. And it's gone from requiring 20 hours of someone's voice to 5 seconds of someone's voice. And it's that transition that has, spooked everyone. But most importantly, we're seeing attackers or fraudsters use AI very, very aggressive scale their attacks.
Yeah, this is totally terrifying to me. And I think we've all seen the stories of exactly what you were saying about fraudsters using the voice of a loved one to convince their targets to turn over money. It's kind of mind-boggling to think about the scale of this problem. Can you give me a sense of what you're seeing among your customers of just how much that scale has grown in the last few years?
Our entire customer base, which includes all of these large companies, we were seeing just a single deepfake attack across the entire month across our entire customer base. And it used to be exciting. We'd all get on a Zoom call with the customer, listen to it, understand how long it was taking for the AI bot to, respond and things like that. Fast forward to the end of 2024, and we're now seeing 7 deepfake attacks per day per customer. So that's a 1,300% increase in the amount of deepfake attacks. So it's a staggering increase. Williams was this fraudster out of West Africa who used to employ 12 different people, and all they do is dial for dollars. He's replaced his entire set of humans with an AI bot that doesn't sleep, works 24/7, and is so good that it doesn't take pauses. And in fact, in the most recent calls that we've heard, is actually empathetic. So when call center agents are taking a little long, it's actually saying, "Hey, I think you're having a long day. How can I help?" And person is like the human is confused because they've been receiving calls, and most humans are typically rude because they want to get their stuff done, so they don't want to be spending time. And here they're getting an AI bot that's showing them empathy, and they're handing the keys to the kingdom to the AI bot because finally there's someone who's showing them empathy. So it's just a very weird world, and it's so much scale because Williams has a bot that now runs 24/7 and can take over accounts all day long without any breaks.
Yeah, it I already said this, but it's just totally scary and mind-blowing to think about the scale of this. So, how do you tell if a voice is human or not?
Yeah. So, the really cool thing is, in we've been doing deepfake detection for a really long time. And the way to detect it, the fundamentally two things we're looking at. One is what's happening in a static particular frame, an audio or a video frame, and then what's happening over time. And so, because human speech over 10,000 years, we do certain things very uniquely because of our anatomy. So, to give you an example, when we say the word San Francisco, the S and F is actually us channeling noise into actual letters. And we do that because over 10,000 years of evolution, we've developed soft fruits. So we've developed an overbite. So our upper and lower jaw can go over each other. And so we're able to channel noise into the S. Now, a lot of machines, they don't represent them well. They represent noise, or they do this in ways that give them away. Word hello, Paul. Your mouth is wide open when you say hello, and it shuts down when you say Paul. But there's a certain speed with which you can do that human. A lot of these machines don't care about those speeds. And so they either do them too quickly or too slowly. And so, we're looking at those anomalies. And the cool thing is in audio, like in this audio session that we are having, there are 16,000 frames of your voice or 16,000 samples of your voice every single second. So there are 16,000 chances for a machine to make a mistake. And so what we're looking for is these mistakes. And statistically, over even the smallest periods in time, we find many of these mistakes. And the way these machines make these mistakes is very inhuman specific to that generation engine. So among the 550 voice cloning engines, each of them has a telltale sign on how they're inhuman. So we're able to say, yeah, this is a deep fake and it's coming from that particular Gen AI
Wow.
engine.
So interesting. Okay, so how accurate are your systems?
Yeah. So we're really, really accurate. So, we're able to detect deep fakes with, well over 99% detection rate with a 1% false positive. So it's a really, really accurate system. And what we're able to do that is do that at scale. Right now, we analyze about 5 billion voice calls, and, we identify about 3 billion in fraud losses and about 2 million fraud events. So we're doing this at scale, and we're doing this extremely accurately. If you don't if you throw up something as a deep fake and it turns out that more often than not it's not, you're desensitizing people. So you have to be really, really accurate in these systems to be able to detect a deepfake and to be able to detect fraud in general.
Where are you worried in terms of the models getting better? Because of course they're going to get better from where they are now. What is most concerning to you, and do you see a world where you won't be able to detect this as accurately?
It's the arms race. What you have to worry about is there an asymmetry you can take care of, right? Like when you think about, for example, email spam, you know, detection, when it first started, everyone thought everybody was going to lose the email spam race. In fact, I moved from Hotmail to Gmail because I was getting way too much spam on my Hotmail address. And what happened is the spam algorithms got better and better, the detection algorithms got better, and the spam system in images and like, and they were depending on the fact that the cost of spam is cheaper than the cost of generating spam. And that's what ultimately won that battle. The same thing right now holds true. The cost of detecting a deep fake is 4 orders of magnitude cheaper than generating one. And intuitively, that makes sense because in order to generate your voice, Catherine, I have to worry about your demographics, about your tones, about, when you use disfluencies, the ums and ahs that you do. I have to worry about all of those details to capture the richness of your voice. When I have to detect a mistake, I have to catch one mistake. And so there's a natural asymmetry where, in the one case, I have to do everything to sound like Catherine. In my case, I have to just detect one place where you're sounding off. And if that's statistically relevant, that's all that matters. And so that is asymmetry is 4 orders of magnitude cheaper in detecting than generating. So, yes, the deepfake algorithms are going to get better. But as long as we're getting better and we're not sitting and twiddling our thumbs, I think that's the race we need to care about.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think of the models for images, for videos. I feel like over time, as you're exposed to more and more AI imagery, you start to pick up on it more. Like you kind of develop a natural sense of that. I think what feels scarier about voice AI is I think some of this stuff, to the human ear, it's really hard to tell. Do you feel like, as the CEO of this company, you can hear the difference between a deep fake and something that's real now, given that you've been exposed to it so much?
No, humans are actually very bad barometers of detecting, fake versus real, because your human ear and your brain is all about pattern matching. You're always trying to find patterns. You're always trying to find the pattern in the noise because that's what makes it comfortable to you. So, anytime you hear and this is what makes this problem really nefarious, right? Anytime you hear someone that sounds like your mom, you want to say it's your mom. And so it's one of these things that because we're so good pattern hunters, our ability to detect deepfakes is terrible.
So I'm curious too if you've seen this enable new kinds of fraud that weren't present before. Is this more of a scale problem, or are there new types of fraud emerging that you're seeing with your customers that are purely enabled by deepfakes?
Yeah, we're seeing fraud. So obviously, we're seeing all of the fraudsters completely redo kits with, Gen AI, large language models, text-to-speech systems. But more recently, we have started moving into video deepfake detection. And so we rolled out our software on Zoom calls to our entire company. And the first people who showed up saying, "Hey, we're detecting deepfakes," was our HR team. And I was like, man, this is clearly a false positive. And then we looked in and we started seeing that 1 in 6 candidates applying for a job is fake. So, and we've created new companies that have nothing to do with security, and we're still seeing those numbers hold across multiple jobs, across multiple positions. So the fact that close to 16.8% of the candidates applying for jobs are fake, even scarier, 1 in 343 of them are coming from North Korea. So that just completely surprised us. We knew that was happening, but once it started hitting our own doorstep and we started digging into the problem, we started realizing how bad that situation is and what that just means for a lot of organizations which spend, if you think about it, I'm an organization, when I do security training and invest in software, I spend close to $2,000 per employee on a bunch of security software in order to ensure that my employees are secure and are doing phishing training and things like that. I spend $100 trying to do background checks on the employees coming in. So I've got all of this, walled garden once you're an employee, but I have my front door letting in North Koreans through on $100 background check. So, and that's what the attackers are taking advantage of. The fact that your front door is wide open, you're letting people in a remote first world, in a global world, and in a post COVID world. And that's what surprised us the most, how much these North Koreans are using deepfakes, how much candidate fraud is a big issue.
Yeah, I find that so fascinating. And there's been some great reporting as well about fake students enrolling in colleges to try to scam the government out of financial aid money. I mean, the rise of fake people is something we should all be
It's
terrified of.
insane. It is in commerce,
Yeah.
it's in communication, it's in media, it's affecting our senior citizens. Like, the scary thing is deepfakes have this, and the technology that we have the ability to both scale and hyper localize. So we've seen fraudsters essentially say, I'm going to target all the senior citizens in one county. I'm going to call only phone numbers from that county, and I'm going to target those senior citizens with the voice of their grandkids. So I'm doing this at scale, but I'm hyper localizing it to them. And that's scary. That combination of scale and localization is two extremes, and they're using it to great effect.
So I want to change tax a little bit here. Obviously, this creates a really big business opportunity for you and for Pindrop. So talk to me a little bit about where the company is going, what your product roadmap looks like, and how you're hoping to grow the business kind of off the back of this terrifying wave of fraud we've been talking about.
Yeah, it's incredible, right? Like deepfakes has been an incredible gift, so much so that we've closed more business on our deepfake product in the last year than we closed on our first product on which we raised like 200 million in its first 4 years. We're like right now closing a customer a week on deepfakes, and it's incredible. But it is, every time there's a big technology transformation, security is a natural byproduct. So, when PCs became big, the antivirus companies became big. When you had the internet becoming big, the firewall companies became big. When cloud became big, the cloud security companies became big. And now with Gen AI, I think Gen AI, the fundamental question it is disrupted is the line between what it is to be human and what it is to be machine. And I think the company that unblurs that line is going to become the next big company. And we at Pindrop want to be that company. And so it's turned out to be really massive for us. And we want to do this. Our vision is, and you talked about what is our roadmap. Our roadmap is we want to be the company that disambiguates what's real and what is fake in any real-time communication. So be it you're in a phone call, be it you're in a video meeting, be it you're in a cell phone call, in any of these situations where there's a real-time communication aspect to it, and it's important because it's real time, it's there where attackers are able to take most advantage of the urgency of the situation and get you to do the craziest things. So in these situations we want to be the one that comes in and says, this is really not who you think you're talking to. This is a machine. This is either an AI impersonating someone or a human impersonating someone, and we can solve for both of those issues.
It's funny because I'm talking to another CEO later today whose company is basically building models for transforming real time video. So it's kind of an interesting comparison between these two conversations because that is coming. I mean, it's already here.
It's already
Yeah.
here and it's incredible. I mean, there's a lot of great use cases for it, right? Like when we talk to the folks who you know, create software to clone your voice and your face, you're like sometimes wondering, why do these even exist? But you see some of the great use cases, people who've lost their voice, ads that go into a variety of languages when the, celebrity or whoever is doing the ad can't speak all those languages, right? So there's a lot of great use cases for it. But there's also these super nefarious use cases and and they turn out to create some huge damage, right? Like there's situations where like this engineering firm Arup, their finance worker wired $25 million thinking he was talking to the CFO, and he did that in 16 separate wires, right? Like there's all of these situations where there's real financial damage that happens, and you need something to protect against those.
So, last question for you. 10 years from now, it's kind of hard to imagine what the world is going to be like 10 years from now, given how rapidly things are changing. But in our utopian version of 10 years from now, what does a system of security and technology that really protects us from deepfakes in any form, what do you think that looks like?
It looks like something that can tell you when it's really Catherine, performing a transaction, right? Like, and that transaction could be you're just talking to your mom, or you're, changing your address in your bank, or you're having a conversation with a coworker. In any of those situations, is this Catherine? Is this an AI bot that's actually authorized by Catherine? So you might wanna have a version of yourself that does things for you, that's grunt work that you really don't want to do yourself, right? Like, so if you need to go, get some bill disputed, you want to be able to do that with an AI bot sitting for 30 hours until it gets the problem resolved, and it doesn't need to be you. And when it is someone which is not an authorized AI bot of you trying to do bad things against you. So it's varied, and you're going to see all of these crazy situations. And whatever technology, the system of record needs to be able to disambiguate between all of these three use cases. So the human use case, the Android use case, and the malicious bot use case.
Great. Vijay, thank you so much for your time. This has been so interesting, and I can't wait to keep talking about it. So interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Catherine. It was awesome talking to you.